Welcome. In a previous video I put a transfer switch on my furnace so I could potentially run it with a generator, and in this video I'm going to take a look at how much energy it uses. So the furnace I have is a natural gas furnace. It's a Lennox SLP 98V, and this is a high efficiency furnace. Now it's called the 98V, but the model I have is actually 97% efficient. 98 stands for 98% efficient. Mine is 97. If you have a different size of the SLP 98, it goes up to 98%. And I just noticed today they have an SLP 99V, so this is an older furnace at this point, but it's 97% efficient. It uses a variable speed motor, and those are actually both motors. So the blower motor and the inducer blower are both variable speed electronically commutated motors. So this is going to be one of the most efficient natural gas furnaces you can buy, or could buy 10 years ago when I got it. So to monitor this, I've installed this Casa Smart Wi-Fi plug on the furnace. So this is a smart plug, so you can use your personal assistant to turn it on and off, or you can program it, but it also has energy monitoring features, and this comes with an app, and the app's not very good, but I set this up in Home Assistant, and that allows me to track the energy usage. So let's go over to that. So to start off, this furnace has a blower in it, and I leave the blower on all the time. So that is represented by this bottoming out here of this chart, and on the left of the chart here are watts, and then we have time. So this would be for the last 24 hours or so, or it looks like it started yesterday morning. So if I go to the bottom here, you see this is 50 watts, 49 watts, 50 watts. So that represents the blower running just by itself. So what that's doing is that's circulating air through the furnace filter and essentially cleaning the air and circulating it. So it's mixing the air too, so you don't have as many hot or cold spots in the house. So this represents when the furnace itself is not running. So I turned that circulate mode off earlier, and you can see that over here. And this is the idle standby wattage of the furnace. So we'll just call that 15 watts. So when the furnace is not running, it's just in standby, it's at 15 watts. So when it's in circulate mode, we have about 50 watts, standby is 15 watts. So that 15 watts would almost represent like phantom power of a TV that's plugged in and drawing energy, but you're not actually using it. Although most TVs are probably more efficient than that these days. So this here would be a typical of it running. So this was running around 98 watts. So this is the electricity the furnace is using. So it is a natural gas furnace. So if I were to hook a generator up to this, I would need 100 watts of power to run this furnace. And that's running the blower that's blowing air throughout the house, and the inducer blower, which is blowing the exhaust out the house. Every once in a while it spikes up here, and it gets up to what, 150 or so it looks like. So I don't know if that's the igniter or something else going on there. It could be shutting down and starting back up occasionally. I'm not sure what that represents. And then here we have these stair steps. So what I'm guessing is it decided it wanted to ramp up the temperature. So this furnace does have a communicating thermostat. So the thermostat talks to the furnace. It's not like a dumb switch. It can tell the furnace to run at a certain percentage. So this furnace will go from 35% to 100% in 1% increments. So it can run the furnace at say 42%, or maybe it's running at 42% and it says we need more heat. So it bumps it up to 63%. So that's what I'm guessing this is here. And you can see that little spike that's even. So again, I don't know if that's what that is. I guess I should mention there is a humidifier plugged into this. It doesn't draw very much electricity as far as I know. So you can see these kind of stair steps. And right now when it was running here, it's currently 19 degrees out. It might have been a little colder when it was running here. It was probably around 3 degrees, I think. It has warmed up since then. But this is a brick house, so it can take a while for the temperature to change. Now if we go over here, it's probably a little colder here. This was yesterday morning. It was very cold yesterday morning. It was running at 100 watts, and then it cranked all the way up here to 300 watts. So when we see these spikes here at 150 watts, if you're using a generator, it looks like that's only doing that for a second. So I wouldn't expect that that would peak out your generator, although most generators can handle that. Although I'm considering running this from a battery, and I still think it could handle that easily. So it looks here, it peaked out at just under 300 watts here. I got up to 315, but it looks like most of the time it doesn't really go above 100, except for those little spikes and a couple of these times where it ramped up there. So I just wanted to take a quick look at these numbers. If I'm going to power my furnace, I need something that can do 100 watts continuous, but occasionally it will go up to 300 watts. So I want it to be able to at least peak out at that for a short time, but it doesn't look like it stays at that amount very long. Now I'm going to try and switch the dates here. I've had trouble with this a little bit. Let's see if I can go back through Sunday. I'm doing this on a Friday. See if I can pull this up. Okay, so if we look at this range here, which would be January 31st through February 1st, let me pull that up. So where my mouse is right now, up until this point, this is natural gas. And I've covered the natural gas stuff. This is kind of a little bonus here. This is natural gas. And then when you start seeing this, it looks like a square wave. That's going into heat pump mode. So this furnace also has a heat pump attached to it. So when it gets above 30 degrees, it can run in heat pump mode. So the electricity we're looking at here though is only for the furnace unit. It's not for the outside unit. That has its own 240 volt circuit. This is only what the furnace is doing. And it really ramps up the fan when it runs in the heat pump mode. So you can see it's around 187, 190 watts, 185 watts here. here. And this is when it's kicking on and off. It goes through defrost cycles, so this thing cycles on and off quite a bit. It did peak out here a couple times. It looks like 310 watts. Here's 320. Here it went up to 422 watts. So I'm not sure exactly what happened at that point. But as far as running a generator or battery, I would be running the furnace on emergency heat mode, which turns off the heat pump, because you can't run a heat pump on a small battery or a small generator. You'd have to have something large to run the heat pump. But I thought people might find this interesting. When it's in the heat pump mode, then it really cranks up the fan to blow more air past the coil. So this may not be useful if you're trying to size a generator or battery, something to look at. So one last thing that might be of interest, but probably not very useful. I notice if I look at the monitor voltage, it goes up and down quite a bit. So here it's at 120, it's up here to 122. The lowest it dropped down to was 118, and this is over, what, a day's time. I thought that was kind of interesting that the voltage changes like that, and it's plotting it on here. Now again, I don't know how accurate this is. I don't know how much of this is coming from the grid or from in my house, as different things are turned on and off, but I thought that was interesting. So that's all I'm going to cover in this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you like this video, please click like. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate it if you could do that. And thanks for watching. Until next time, goodbye.